Hi everybody, welcome to our brand new edition of Begg's Banter. This is brought to you by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, torquing, testing, refurbishment and welding. And also by Lux Scott, a jet-class luxury vehicle company. If you are looking to travel to an event in style, these are the guys for you. Check out their details, check out their fleet. It's magnificent. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to a brand new show. So if you're watching for the very first time, this is where I interview people from the world of football and show business. Today, we're concentrating on football and in particular, my love, my passion, Aberdeen Football Club. Please feel free to subscribe if you like what you watched. Okay, I'm going to get straight on with it and introduce this guy because quite simply, he is a legend. It is Jim Leighton. Jim signed for Aberdeen in June 1977. In two spells with the club, he played 535 games, winning 9 major honours. He was capped 91 times for Scotland, the most of any Scottish goalkeeper. Only Kenny Dalglish played more games for the national side. He is rightfully an Aberdeen legend and an Aberdeen Hall of Fame member. I was delighted to have caught up with him recently from his home in Aberdeen. Hi Jim, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I would like to start our chat by taking you right back to when you were still a teenager and still a young boy coming through the ranks and trying to make your way into the game. Before you signed for Aberdeen, were there any other clubs interested in you?
There wasn't for a long time because I was about 16 before I could run and jump and reach the crossbar. A lot of teams looked at me and decided that I would never grow. And they looked at my dad, who went to all my games, and my dad was 5'7", so everybody just thought that it would never happen for me. But like virtually overnight, I shot up, and then all of a sudden there was quite a number of teams in, but I had been up pre-season to Aberdeen, and Aberdeen had really looked after me. So when they offered me the chance to sign, there was only one place I was going to come because of the way that they had looked after me. And they always promoted younger players, and they always took a lot of players away from home, and so a lot of players would stay together and that kind of type of thing. So I knew the way that they looked after players because they had to be good at that, because if you're from the west of Scotland, you could virtually have stayed at home and played with everyone else. So they were very good at looking after players coming away from home. And Bobby Calder was good at that, the chief scout. He used to butter up your mum, especially your mum, and keep on her side. And that was very successful. Well, obviously the players that we got from Glasgow, Edinburgh, that did have to stay away from home.
I've always found it really interesting, Jim, that you guys back in those days, and it's still the same today, I guess, that you guys trained on your own away from the first team. So when you first signed, how were you able then to sort of make friends and get yourself involved with the group of players, considering the training patterns?
A lot of us all came at the same time. I was lucky. I knew Alec McLeish before I came because Alec and I played for a team in Glasgow called Glasgow United from about 11, 12 years of age. And then him and I come up on the train on trial on the same day, and obviously the two of us got signed out of the number of boys that was there. So Alec was a help for me being there as well. But you soon just gel in. Football is like a world institution. As soon as you walk into a team, you make pals straight away, and everybody has their wee moments, away from home or being homesick. So everybody helps everybody else get through it. And that really is the way that everybody gels together.
You made your debut on the 12th of August, 1978 against Hearts. I appreciate it was a long time ago, but I'm wondering, because it was your debut, how you felt ahead of that game, how your emotions were ahead of that game.
Well, I knew a few days before the game that I was going to be playing, and obviously they said it was the first game of the season. I'd came straight from Devon Vale. So I'd been at Devon Vale for a season, and that's when Billy McNeil left, and then Alec Ferguson came in. So that was the first game of the season, because Bobby had broke and dislocated his thumb the week before. So it was between John Gavin and myself, and I got the nod. So I didn't play a reserve game. I just get flung straight in. But you don't really think about it. You just got on with it because it was, it came upon me. But I remember my dad, before he passed away, always used to speak about it. I went out to see him at Tynecastle before the game to give him his tickets, and I took my wallet out of my pocket, and I tried to get the tickets out of my wallet, and I couldn't get them out, and I just gave him the wallet and says, "You need to do it yourself." And he says, "You're not filling me with a lot of confidence here, son." But thankfully, the game went okay for me, and we won 4-1, and I was fortunate enough to play 22 games, I think, on that run before Bobby got injured. But without that run, I would never have been able to sustain the run that I did when I eventually got back in again.
Yeah.
You need to, especially as a goalie, you need to go in, see what it's about, come back out again, and then you know what it's all about the next time round. And to be honest, Bobby actually just got fit for me at the right time, because it was just starting to, I never really thought about it or worried about anything, but it was just starting to be enough, and it was time for me to come out. So I was fortunate. Timing's you're very lucky in football, and timing was just perfect for me.
Yeah, we'll talk about the longer spell shortly, but before we get to that, when did you first start to sense that there was this almost telepathic understanding between you, Willie Miller, and Alex McLeish?
Difficult to say. Willie was in the team first. I mean, he'd been captain when I was at Devon Vale, and Alec is about the same age as me. So Willie was in the team first a few years before Alec and I came into the team. Willie, especially then, it was like you had to gain Willie's respect, and it took a long time to get Willie's respect. So he almost dragged us up to his level, but you knew you had done wrong if you done, and he just gave you this death stare, and he never said anything, but you knew he wasn't happy with you. But it didn't come overnight. We made a lot of mistakes, especially Alec and myself, before we got up to Willie's level. But Willie was a big factor in the development of both Alec and myself, which obviously we very much appreciated. But we worked on it every day, day in, day out. It didn't just happen by chance or, lucky. We worked and we worked and we worked at it. And even when things did start clicking into place, it wasn't a case of, well, we've done it now. It was still right to the time where the three of us stopped playing together. We still worked and worked and worked at it. And a Monday morning, we would go through incidents in the game, whether it be goals or near misses. And it wasn't a case of, it was Kennedy's fault or it was Rugby's fault. We went through it to better ourselves. And, if we'd held our hand up if we made a mistake or whatever it may be. But I think that was a good way, before really we had videos or anything like that, it was a good way for us to improve that understanding that we had. And obviously it carried on into the national team. I don't know how many times the three of us would have played together, but it must have been a fair old amount.
Okay, I've got the first of your 3 quick fire questions. So feel free to answer them as you like. Who did you first lodge with when you moved to Aberdeen?
Tampai and Joe Smith.
Okay. Who are you winning an argument with? Willie Miller or Alex McLeish?
Neither. I'm wrong before I start.
What's the better feeling? Winning your first medal or getting your first cap for Scotland?
I know that's supposed to be a quick fire question, but it's difficult to split the two. The first time you do something is always special. It's always special doing it afterwards, don't get me wrong, but the first time you do something where you win the Scottish Cup, where you win your first cap, that is really special, and I'm sorry, but I can't split them.
Okay, no worries. Right, when you played in Europe and you knew that you were going to be facing some of Europe's top strikers, I know this is in the days before video analysis or anything like that, but were you able to ever study their movements and their style of play?
Fergie and Archie were great at that sort of type of thing. They were both way ahead of their time. We used to, if the games were generally always played on a Wednesday then, so from Sunday we'd have a meeting on the Sunday after the game on the Saturday, and we'd all get a dossier on every player, and I would know what foot they kicked with, who took free kicks, who did this, who did that, and so you knew all about them before the game started. So I say, like, Fergie and Archie were way ahead of their times as far as that. Nowadays, obviously, as you said, videos and stuff like that. I mean, even back in the day, Aberdeen were only on the TV maybe every 6 weeks or so. So you didn't get to see a lot, but because they were so thorough, you knew everything about the players beforehand. Even when you played teams from Albania, when nobody could get into Albania, don't ask me how they did it, but they did it somehow. Yeah. And that was a massive influence on all the players, knowing if it was, say, Peter Weir playing against the right back or Alec Mully playing against strikers or attacking midfield players. So that was a big plus on our side.
Okay, I'd like to talk to you now about the Bayern Munich game, the second game at Pittodrie, and in particular the closing stages after John Hewitt has scored what proved to be our winner. I've always been intrigued to know, Jim, as a goalkeeper, do you talk yourself through those closing stages? And what I mean by that is, do you say to yourself in your head, stay calm, stay concentrated, make the right decision? Is it as calculated as that, your thinking in the closing stages?
You're not really thinking, and you probably are subconsciously, but you're so deep into the game, concentrating so hard, you don't really need to think of concentrating. The whole atmosphere and everything that went along with it and the importance of it, you didn't need to concentrate. Yeah, we all knew what time was running out, and I suppose we're all getting a wee bit edgy and a wee bit nervy, and wishing the clock would go a bit quicker. But you're so deep into the game, you probably don't think or don't know what you're thinking at the time. If that doesn't sound, like wrong, you're just so caught up in the game. A lot of times where the whistle goes for half time, and you think there's only about 15 or 20 minutes played, just because you're, it's a cliche, I suppose, that you're in the zone, but you do get in the zone and you don't realise, how long the game has been or passed or whatever.
Okay, for Gothenburg, did the rain affect your own personal preparations for the game?
100%. You would always be on the pitch. Well, I used to be on the pitch about 50 minutes before the game, maybe even longer sometimes, and you've got your routines that you would go through. For me, if it was a really big game, when you were really nervous or when it was hot, I didn't do my usual, say I did 20 of one thing, I'd maybe do 10. I didn't want to leave all my nervous energy on the pitch. I wanted to leave that when I was doing the warm, I wanted to leave it for when I went on the pitch. And because we couldn't get on the pitch, it does upset you because you've got your own routine, and for the biggest game of your life, you couldn't do your routine. But same for everybody. I wasn't any different to any of the rest of the 22 or the other 21 players that started. So you just had to make do with it and got on with it. And just couldn't let it affect you. You just had to go, especially with it being so wet. You wanted to have a feel of the ball and see how the ball bounced or didn't bounce. In front of you, how the ball rolled. So there's all these sort of things that you wanted to find out, but didn't until it happened from Alec, unfortunately.
let me take you to literally the last 10 seconds of the game. Real Madrid's last gasp free kick. I have a very simple question for you. If it was on target, did you have it covered?
I don't know. It's the honest 100% answer. I've looked back on it a few times and I've dived past the post. When it did pass me, as a goalie, you wait for that split second, and it's the worst noise in the world is the ball hitting the net. If you speak to Joe Harper, it's the best noise in the world, but for a goalie, it's the worst noise in the world. And I was more than happy that I didn't hear anything. It was mighty close, as you can, everybody can obviously see. You can't tell how far I'm away from it with the camera angle, but I was well across. Whether I would have saved it if it was going inside the post, you know something? I don't really care because it didn't happen.
Exactly. It's a
I'm just trying to answer
question.
the question honestly, but I couldn't honestly say. But thankfully, it didn't come to that.
Yeah, God, it was a heart-stopping moment, dearie me. Okay,
Yeah,
3 more quick-fire questions.
Okay.
Favorite training drill?
Anything that involves not running.
Oh, so that's your least favorite training drill, which was going to be my next question.
I'm the worst runner in the world, and they used to have to send out buses for me. I used to get lost in cross countries and runs, and they had to wait in the bus to catch me, for me to catch me up. And if we did, like there was a 400-meter track at Balgownie,
Yeah.
and they did 800. I was struggling to do 400 in that period of time. So I'm the worst runner in the world. But thankfully, 6 yards is about my distance to run. So, but managers knew that I didn't cheat them. I did what I did. But when the ball came out, that's when, thankfully, that's when I started playing.
Did you have any pre-match superstitions?
I didn't used to, but as you get on, you tend to have a few. But I always had a last nervous visit to the toilet, and then when I come back from that, I used to put my teeth and my chain in my pocket. Okay. And the physio used to put on my Vaseline, and there was a vapor rub I used to get on my chest and both my sleeves. Whether that's superstition or whether it's more practical, I'm not really sure, but that was my sort of routine in the last couple of minutes before I stood behind Willie for about a million times.
Okay, right. So let's get on to this long spell that you had. So I worked out, and I hope I'm correct in my my stats here, that you only missed 4 games between season 1980-81 and then 1984-85. Now, despite this incredible record, did you ever feel vulnerable knowing that potentially only one mistake could cost you your place in the team?
Well, you always hoped that, and to be fair, Fergie was good with me that way as well, that he let me make my mistakes in the first team, especially when I got in the team on that run. He obviously saw something in me that he wanted to, hopefully that I was going to evolve. And if it sort of dropped me for making a couple of mistakes early on, then, it would have affected me probably in the long run. So he let me make my mistakes in the first team. Obviously, I wasn't going to be getting too many, but he was certainly pretty good in that way. Possibly at times he could have dropped me, but he kept faith in me, and he kept faith mainly on the Alec, Willie, and myself. But we were it was a bit unfair in the rest of the team that the 3 of us quite often get singled out for whether it be goals against or clean sheets or whatever, because people like Mark McGee did a hell of a job at the top end, defending from there, and let's for Dougie Rougvie and Shoot Kennedy as well, who were terrific players. She really should have been back 5 that get mentioned, but most of the time it was just the 3 of us, which was a bit unfair on both of them.
Okay. When did you first decide to move on from Aberdeen, and how tough was that decision to make?
When I was at Mexico in '86, I felt that after while I was over there, I'd been thinking about it for a while. I had done everything at Aberdeen that I really could do. I've always been very ambitious. I always wanted to do something else. Yeah, I could have probably stayed at Aberdeen until 42 when I ended up coming back and retiring then, but I wanted to try something different. I wanted to go and further my career, whether it was abroad or whether it was in England. And at that time, Fergie wouldn't let me go. I had 2 years left of my contract. So '86, I felt would have been the right time for me to go, but I wasn't allowed to go. So I wasn't going to go and bang the door down and say demanding a transfer. I signed a contract in good faith, and they wanted to keep me, which was entirely the club's right. So I never complained. I just got on with it. But when my contract ran out in '88, it was definitely time because I was starting to get a bit stale. When you play, I played, I think it was '86. Played against Pat Bonner 9 times in the one season. I played against them 7 times for Aberdeen and twice for Scotland.
Okay.
Just gets a bit stale after a while. So I knew it was time to move on, and I couldn't have went to a better club than I did go to.
Listen, your issues have been well documented. We don't need to get into that. But what I would like to know is, where did you find the strength and the courage in what was a very testing period in your life?
I suppose I'm a stubborn so and so. There was so many people writing me off. If I had the best decision I ever made was to go to Man United, and if I had the same decision to make over again, that's the club I would have went to. If I was sitting here talking to you now, I would say I would always have regretted not taking the chance to sign for Man United. I could have went elsewhere and get more money, but when you got offered the chance to sign for Man United, you don't turn it down. It didn't obviously go the way that I would liked it to have gone, but that's the decision I made, and it was the correct decision at the time. A lot of people, a lot of managers looked at me after that and were scared of me because they thought, like, because all had went on, I was going to be carrying too much baggage and I would never get back to the level that I played at before. And I was desperate to prove people wrong, and I said I'm a stubborn so and so. And thankfully, when I went to Hibs, Ali Miller was fantastic for me and to me, and he was the one that, along with Andy Watson, who was my old teammate, who was his assistant at the time, and it made me feel wanted again, because I hadn't really felt wanted for quite a number of years. I went to Dundee and it was the worst decision that I'd ever made, and I was glad to move to Hibs, and that really kick-started my career again. And within about 2 or 3 months of playing for Hibs, I got back into the national team.
That leads me nicely to my next question, because you did play in a very good Hibs team. You obviously went on to gain many, many more caps, and then obviously you came back to Aberdeen, where you were our captain for many seasons. So what I would like to ask you is, with the power of hindsight and where you are now in your life, do you allow yourself to sit back and be proud of being able to come through what you came through and almost reinvent yourself and have that fantastic second spell in your career?
Yeah, very much so. But you can't do it by yourself. My friends and family and everyone all sort of rallied round. As you always find out who your friends are when when things are going a bit tough.
Yeah.
It's easy when the things are going well for you. Everybody wants to be your pal and all that kind of type of thing. So that's really when you know who your friends are. I mean, I'm a very private person, so there's not really a lot of people that know me, you only really know me if you know me, if you know what I mean. I don't give myself away to a lot of people. I don't really do any media or anything like that. So, but I've got a lot of good friends and family around about me who wanted me to get back to where I ended up getting to as much as I did. And a lot of people took a lot of pleasure and a lot of pride that I did manage to get back there again.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2000 Scottish Cup final didn't quite go according to plan, did it?
No, I lay in my bed and I had a lot of different outcomes, and funny enough, that wasn't one of them. But it's probably typical me. I mean, I don't look to any publicity or anything like that. I don't do that, but that's the sort of type of thing that's kind of followed me around in my career. It's just unfortunate that that was my last game. But there was no malice towards Rod Wallace. It was a football injury, and these things happen in the game. It wasn't great for Aberdeen, obviously, where Robbie Winters ended up going in goals and place over me. But the same would have happened in the other end because Stefan Kloss was the only goalie. Rangers didn't have a goalie on the bench either. But that's football. These things happen in football, and just can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Okay, to finish off, 3 final quick fire questions for you. The best save you ever made while playing for Aberdeen?
I know it's a quick fire question, but it's difficult to say a best save. More important, or maybe something that might be, there was one save that probably maybe sounds stupid. We were 4-0 up playing Montrose in a Scottish Cup tie one night at Pittodrie, and there was about a minute to go, and I hadn't seen the ball virtually all night. It was just one-way traffic, and I made a save late on, and that sort of taught me a lot about myself because it was quite early in that period where I came in, about concentration, which I would like to think and I hope was a strength of mine. So it's a bit a long-winded question for a quick-fire answer, but it's difficult to say a best save because there's other factors involved in it.
Sure.
And that was a horrible, snowy, freezing cold night, and that for me was better than anyone against Bayern Munich or anything like that.
During your time at Aberdeen, both spells, who was the best player you played with?
Obviously has to be Willie, for not just for the way that he played, but the type of person and type of character, and he was a fantastic captain as well. And I've got a lot to thank him for. I wouldn't tell him to his face though, but I would say it when he's not there.
Okay, right, to finish off, if you could change one result from your time at Aberdeen, what result would you like to change?
Probably the Porto and the semi-final.
Yeah.
I think we thought we had won a watch in the semi-final in the draw because Man United and Juventus played in the other semi-final. And I think we thought we had won a watch the same as the semi-final when we played Waterside, but we didn't realise how good Porto were. For them to restrict us to so few chances over both games, they were a really good side, and that was them just starting to evolve. And I'm not sure how many years later they actually won the European Cup with virtually the same team. So that's probably the one that I would change. There's not too many, to be honest, that I would change, but that is one I would certainly like to.
Okay, Jim, we're done. Thank you so much. I know that you don't very often grant interviews, so I'm really honoured. So thank you very much for coming on and taking the time to talk to me, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Take care, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Thanks, a pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cheers, Jim. There we are, Jim Leighton. Not just an Aberdeen legend and a Scotland legend, but also an absolutely fantastic guy. As I said in the interview there as I said goodbye to him. It's not very often that Jim grants interviews like this. So as you can imagine, I'm absolutely thrilled that he said yes to talking to me for this very special Begg's Banter interview. Guys, we're done. I really hope you enjoyed today's watch. We will be back with more preview shows, review shows, and exclusive interviews. Just keep an eye on my social media channels for further details coming very soon. Guys, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it may bring. All the best. Bye for now.